Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Shots on Target podcast. My name is Phil, joined by my man Jakey as always.
How are we, guys?
And first off, we'd like to start by saying a Merry Christmas to you all. Hope you
Merry
guys have
Christmas.
hope you guys have a fantastic time. This will be my personal last podcast of the year because I'm going away for Christmas. So I will leave you in the capable hands of our man Jakey, which I'm sure
Yay.
he's so excited to do.
Ecstatic.
And of course, as usual, guys, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the video. So, usually we give you guys our rundown of our top three Premier League games of the weekend, but this week we couldn't decide between two of them, so we're going to give you four instead. A little Christmas treat for you. So, we're going to kick off with Tottenham versus Newcastle. How did you see this one, Jakey?
Um, a battering, to be fair. Both teams coming off the back of bad results. I think it was the team more likely to get result. I thought would be Spurs. They had a bit more to prove, and from minute one, it just was all Spurs.
Yeah.
The Newcastle had that early chance, which I thought maybe could have changed the tides of the game. An early goal for Newcastle maybe set the tone a bit differently. And with Spurs at the minute, they look a bit more shaky at the back, but no, it didn't come. It was a great block by Davies, and that then proceeds to just turn into a bit of a dominant performance from Spurs.
Yeah, I think from first glance, Newcastle look very tired. It looks like the fixture schedule, their injuries, it's catching up to them now. They were getting some good results, but now it's starting to turn not only in the Premier League but also in Europe. Seem to
Yeah,
be on a bit of a downfall at the minute, which they can turn around to get some of their players back. Obviously, they're missing Pope, they're missing Harvey Barnes, obviously Tonali they have to see out the rest of the season with because of his antics.
bigger
Um,
miss. I think Botman as well.
Botman as well, yeah,
He's out, and I think he's their best defender.
yes, some big names missing for Newcastle. And Tottenham for me, they just seem to be playing a very attractive style of football right now, and it's one of those where it kind of reminds me of Leeds but with a bit more quality. It's one of those where they will literally just attack and attack and attack until the other team submits. Um, and when you've got as much quality as Tottenham do, like Heung-min Son is the key man right now for Spurs. He was absolutely brilliant on the wing. Tore Trippier a new one, um, which I was actually surprised about. Even though Richarlison was back from injury, I thought Son was doing well as the lone man up top, but Ange decided to switch it up to play them both together, and it worked. It worked beautifully.
I think Son is more suited out wide. Give him the free reign of the wing, let him cut inside. He can create more. He gets more on the ball, and we seen how well he can create when he set up Udogie and Richarlison
Oh yeah,
for their first two goals.
I definitely agree with you. I think Son is just a. I think Son can play both. To be honest, I think he can do a shift up top as well as on the wing.
Yeah,
I think it all depends on the players around Son. Like he thrived for years playing next to Harry Kane, and he played in multiple positions there just to feed off Kane. He played on the left, he played on the right, he played up top with Kane. They just fed off each other, and
he's a
Son,
very versatile footballer. I
he
think
is
that's what benefits Postecoglou and Spurs well. He
definitely.
can play across anywhere across the front, and he always does a shift.
It surprises me as well because obviously when Kane was there last season, Son, the last couple of seasons, Son looked like a shade of himself, and people were saying his Son completely lost it and no confidence in front of goal. There was a time where he hadn't scored in like 11 games. Now he just looks like a brand new player once again. Looks like he's taken the team by the scruff of the neck, and he now controls and commands that team. And it's brilliant to see. It really is. Like, don't get me wrong, not the biggest Tottenham fan in the world, but you got to respect the way they're playing. I do think that defensively they still look very shaky. There was one incident again, Christian Romero. How he does not see red card for this challenge, I'll never know. Callum Wilson, he's already on a booking. Callum Wilson is on the ground and he literally just dives into him and he's literally studs up into his ankle. How he doesn't see a straight red for it is beyond me. So
I've always said he's prone to a yellow at most, but he's this even I think since he came in, I think he holds the record for red cards in this league.
oh
He
yeah,
averages a red card every like 19 or something games.
I
He's
don't
only been here for like 3 years.
yeah, it don't surprise me. I mean, don't get me wrong, he loves to tackle Christian Romero, and he will put his body on the line for the team, and he is a good defender, but he like you say he's very rash and he will cost Tottenham games. But I think Tottenham have kind of accepted that though in a player. I think it's just a case of they'd rather have him than not.
Yeah.
So it works out. But nonetheless, a very good result for Tottenham. And for me, Newcastle, I think they just need the January transfer window to open. I think they need a couple more recruits in that squad.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, we know Newcastle have the money. Whether or not they can do it through financial fair play, maybe they'll have to get rid of a couple of bit part players to make room, or maybe they've done well on the financial side where they can come in and bring in a couple more players in January. We know, like I say, how much money they have at their disposal, but it
I mean,
remains to be
they,
seen.
they certainly need to be careful with financial fair play at the minute with obviously the point deduction to Everton that we saw earlier in this season.
Oh yeah, I think
The
everyone will be
the
on their
massive
toes.
ongoing case with Man City at the minute. They've got to be very, very careful with how much they spend and whether they're still inside the guidelines of financial fair play, because if they're not, we'll see another case where it's a big points deduction.
I don't think Newcastle were ever in that state at all. Obviously, they literally. I remember it was the end of the window. They literally sold two players to get Anthony Gordon over the line, so they know what they're doing
Mm,
in terms of what they can and what they can't. They knew
yeah,
because I remember as well. Anthony Gordon, Everton wanted 60 million for him, and that Newcastle couldn't do it. Not that he couldn't afford it, just financial fair play was stopping them, and they had to get them
yeah,
down to make that deal happen. So I think Newcastle, they got their brains and their heads switched on. They know what they're doing. But remains
yeah.
to be seen who they bring in January.
Yep, indeed.
But moving on to the next game, Everton versus Chelsea. This one was, I wouldn't say it's a surprising result. In terms of the two squads, yeah, it was. But Everton are absolutely flying right now. You give them a 10-point deduction and they're like, sod it, we'll go get the points ourselves then. It's
Yeah,
it's very, very. I don't even know what the right word with Everton right now is because you've got a manager who everyone expected to just play defensive, but yet they're scoring goals for fun at the minute. Everton, they seem to have got their setup correct. They're annoying to play against. I still think they have one of the best goalkeepers in the league, shot stopping wise, in Pickford. I think Calvert-Lewin on his day can be one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Um, I think they've got a good base around them, and it's showing in the results. How long they can keep this up for remains to be seen. But right now, they're flying and flying absolutely high.
yeah. It's like they've had a fire lit under them with this 10 point deduction. And, if you look at the league table without this 10 point deduction, they're sitting above Fulham. They're sitting in the top half of the table.
Yeah.
And they're playing some very, very good football. Like you say, we don't know how long it'll last. I've always seen Everton as a team that kind of they rely off good performances consistently. Like if they have one bad performance, I think it not derails them, but it has a bigger effect than it would another team.
Mm-hmm.
I've always likened it to United. United are a team that when it's flying, they're amazing. They play good football, but it's that one result where it might not go their way. Heads go off. They stop performing well. They start being rash and reckless, and then the performances and the results turn to shit. Whether that's going to be the same with Everton, we don't know yet. under this manager, we don't know. We know it happened with Ancelotti. We knew it happened with Rafa. But I think this group of players you might see a little bit different because they've kind of got that never quit mentality that they want to go. They want to prove everyone wrong that despite a point deduction, we can still stay up and we can still try and get back into the top half. Where Everton for a long time were always considered kind of not the best of the rest, but they kind of languished in that area where it was like 8th, 9th, 10th, rather than the 15th, 16th, and we've seen recently.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. But that is the Everton side of things. Chelsea side of things now. Chelsea fans, are you shitting it yet or not? That is my biggest question. I mean, it's just you play fantastic against Manchester City, one of the best teams in Europe, and you show everyone, okay, maybe Chelsea have got a bit about them. They have got some quality. Poch does know what he's doing with these players. And then you go and lose to Newcastle, you go and lose to Everton, you go and lose to Manchester United, who, let's be honest, are not in great form themselves. What do you even say if you're a Chelsea fan right now? If I was a Chelsea fan now, I'd be shitting it. Honestly, would be shitting it because
Yeah, I would be very worried as well.
I mean, there's 3 questions you need to ask as a Chelsea fan from me personally. Number one, is Poch the right man for the job? Number two, is the players right? And number three, what system are they playing? Because when I watch Chelsea, I watched them against, like I said, against Man City, and they looked fantastic. They looked like they had a great setup. They wanted to play on the front foot, give Man City a real game, and you're like, fair enough, you do that. Then they go and play against Newcastle, and they sit back. So whatever they did against City, they're like, okay, it worked. Well, we're going to just completely change it and try something different here. And it's like, I don't understand whatsoever. For me, the biggest thing for me was after the Manchester United game, and Poch literally came out and said, I need to hit the market. I'm sorry, you've just spent £1 billion fucking pounds. You need to hit the market.
I mean, in his defence, I will say this about Poch, in his defence, that team's not his.
I get that. I do get that.
I think
but how
them signings were very much brought in by Bowley. They were not brought in with any, factor in who was going to manage them. These were just the signings that he wanted. It very much reminds me of when you get a lot of money on FIFA or on Football Manager and you just go buy the big name players.
But while he's in charge, they're always going to be hit Bowley's signings.
I think any manager is going to have that, though. I think that job kind of at the minute is a bit of a poison chalice. No matter who.
I just don't understand how a manager can literally sit there and say, I need to hit the market after the club's just spent £1 billion. That's just mind blowing to me. I get, like you say, that it's not his players, fair enough, but I mean, some managers just adapt and you deal with what you've got with the cards you're dealt. Do you know what I mean? Not every manager's going to have world-class stars to be able to mould and build under. Like, he's got some fantastic young talent there. But for me, it comes down to the system. He's the one changing the system every week. He's the one looking for the answers. Why can't you... I just don't understand why. I really hate it when you have these managers that want to play a different system every single week. The players are just going to get confused. You're going to get confused fans because they're going to be like, well, what the hell are we doing here? Because, like, sometimes you'll have Cole Palmer in the 10. Sometimes you'll have him on the right. Sometimes you'll have him behind. You'll have Enzo higher up. They still seem to prefer Nicholas Jackson up top to Broha.
Don't know why.
I just don't understand what philosophy Chelsea Football Club is at the minute. And if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be fucking fuming right now. I really would. Like, one of my best mates is a Chelsea fan, and he literally just says, "We're shit, mate. We're shit." Like, it's just straight up, we're just shit. And
I think the only thing they're going to benefit from this season is there's a lot worse teams than them, so they won't go down.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
I don't see Luton, Burnley, or Sheffield posting more than 19 points this season. So as long as Chelsea keep picking up the odd win, they'll be fine, I guess.
It's just
That's the only saving grace that Chelsea have right now is that there are shitter teams than them.
it's just really bad right now at Chelsea Football Club. Like I said, I'd be very worried if I was a Chelsea fan right now. And Chelsea fans, we want to hear from you guys as well. What do you think the state of your club is in? What do you think needs to change? Let us know in the comments below, because from where I'm sitting, it looks fucked.
It's pretty bleak, I will admit. It
It
is
looks
pretty bleak.
absolutely fucked. But speaking of teams that got fucked, we'll move on to the next game. And
I'll let you take it away.
I don't really want to do this, but it's going to happen anyway. So, you've all seen the result. West Ham got dicked on. Simple as.
Lightly put. Lightly put.
Yeah, lightly put. We got completely dicked on. Not much else I can say from a West Ham perspective. All I will say is it's... We played shit, don't get me wrong. It was poor. There's no excuse whatsoever. All I will say from a West Ham perspective, which I'm hoping is right, because I even said this to you, Jake, I would happily throw this game if it means we get a win on Thursday night in the Europa League.
You did say that.
We have a big game against Freiburg Thursday night. Winner takes top spot in the group, which means you don't finish second place, you don't play an extra round against a team dropping down from the Champions League. And if you guys have watched the Champions League, you know there could be some big teams dropping down from there. So you take what you get. We still got absolutely battered, but from a West Ham perspective, we're still in top half, still above Fulham, I'd like to mention as well.
Yeah, you are.
Only
just.
So it could be worse. It's one of those where we got the win against Tottenham, which kind of makes it a little bit easier to take on this front. But still, there's no exception whatsoever from a West Ham perspective. It was piss poor. The players looked tired. I think you mentioned about a possible food poisoning, Jake, which, if it's true, could explain it. Because I watched the highlights and we looked tired as fuck. If that's true or not, no one knows, but end of the day, Fulham deserve all the credit, and I'm going to let you take that part, Jakey.
Yeah, Fulham have kind of been a team revived at the minute. They started off the season a little bit shaky. You know, they didn't have really too many good results. But under Marco Silva at the minute, and mainly it's the home form that's really impressive. They've scored, I think it was somewhere around, it was like 13 or 15 goals in the last 3 games. You know, they're a team that are flying high at the minute, and I think the big part of that is they've got Raul Jimenez firing.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was always a player, if you look back at his Wolves time, he was linked with big moves away. There is clearly a very, very good striker there. And
oh, definitely.
Marco Silva just seems to have unlocked it. Because he's a striker player with confidence at the minute. If you look at his first goal, it's a great header. He's in the right position, and it's a glancing header. And, you know, if you looked at Raul Jimenez maybe a year ago now, I don't think that player was there anymore. I think it just looked like a shell after his, you know, his unfortunate head injury.
I agree.
But you know, he scored 2 in his last game. He scored 1 against West Ham, and he's just looked a very, very good player again. He looks like the player that Wolves have missed.
What I will say about Fulham, though, is they seem like they're a bit of a weird team for me, Fulham. It seems like there'll always be a team that will be around like 9th to 13th, maybe. They'll have results like this, but then it wouldn't surprise me if this weekend, I don't know who they've got, but say they play Luton and they lose 2-1. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't surprise me at all. They're one of those teams that I like I said, I expected us to struggle in this game. I didn't expect us to get fucking raped 5-0. But I mean, shit happens. But as you say, Fulham are absolutely flying right now, and they need to be respected for sure. I saw a stat yesterday. Apparently, in the last 3 games, they've scored more goals than they did in the entire Scott Parker reign.
So I remember saying that.
So that just says all you need to know. So Fulham fans will be very happy right now, as they should be.
I do want to just highlight one more thing. That Harry Wilson goal was pick of the bunch.
Yeah, it was a lovely finish.
That was a fantastic strike.
It needs to be closed down quicker, but that's my West Ham perspective.
That's the West Ham goggles on.
Absolutely, and they'll always be on.
But yeah, a fantastic result for Fulham as they sit 10th in the league at the minute.
Yep, back
And
into the top half.
yeah, back into the top half, and they're flying high.
Absolutely.
But we will move on to a team that's not really flying high at the minute. Manchester
Yes.
United.
Last but not least, we have the Cherries versus Manchester United at Old Trafford. Don't forget, at Old
Yeah,
Trafford.
that's what makes this result, I guess, even more kind of bitter for United because
Oh,
I think
definitely.
they could stomach a defeat against Bournemouth if it was at the Vitality, but the fact that it's in their home ground and they looked fucking appalling.
Yeah. Well,
3-0 flattered them.
I want to start off by saying all the talk will be about how bad Manchester United are. So that's why I want to start with how good Bournemouth have been recently. They
Yeah,
a couple of months ago they could not pick up a shot on target. They looked down and out, and I don't know what is it Andoni?
I thought it was Iraola.
Areola, that's it. Sorry. Um,
I never know how to pronounce his name.
no. But yeah. As I say, they looked absolutely down and out. I don't know what the hell he's changed, but in the last 2 months they have looked really good. I remember watching them. It was a Saturday evening game when they played away at Newcastle. They looked fantastic in that one, and this was when Newcastle was playing very well. And ever since then, they've been picking up results here and there, going under the radar a little bit, getting some good results. And then, as you say, this one is the absolute pick of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I never really bought the fact that even when they weren't playing particularly well, they always kind of seemed to play good football. If you get me, like the results
Mm,
weren't there, but the performances weren't awful. I think I remember when we played them at the start of the season, and I think that was a game where we went down to 10 men, and they played well there. They had there were good moments, good little spells of football from Bournemouth, and I think it was just missing maybe a few tweaks or a few like formational changes or maybe just different player roles. But they've gone and picked up result after result. They got a 2-2 draw against Bournemouth at the start of the month.
against
Not
Newcastle.
against Aston Villa. Sorry, it was a 2-2,
All right.
and that's Aston Villa that are very hard to beat at the minute. That's a very hard Aston Villa team. Um, and then they picked up a 2-0 against Palace, which was last week, which was a very good result. Palace, a team that gave us a game at the weekend. Um, and yeah, it's just they've been slowly just picking up results and they're playing some very good football.
I think the biggest thing with Bournemouth at the minute is they just seem to, like you say, they'll always create a few chances. I think it's just the case that they're just putting them away at the minute, and that was always the biggest thing for me with Fulham is they play nice football, but they had no real quality to back it up. It looked like a team trying to play the right way, but not having the right tools to complete the job, sort of thing. Um, and personally, I don't know how long it will last for Bournemouth. I think they're a team that are teetering for me. I think that this result is very much could be the standout point of the season for them. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I still see Bournemouth in a relegation battle come the end of the season. I just think there are a lot better teams in the Premier League with a lot more quality than Bournemouth. I think really the only standout players would be, oh, I wouldn't even call him a standout player, but Solanke's obviously a big one.
They've got him
Sinistera.
firing, which is massive at the minute.
Yeah, but me personally, I think they're still in it for a relegation battle, depending on what happens over December and January. These are the two biggest months for teams teetering for me. You
Yeah.
always find out after the end of January, usually, you get an idea of who is in trouble.
Well, to
Um,
be fair, you say relegation battle. Currently, they're sat on the same amount of points as Chelsea.
no, I know, but you have to look at the points difference.
Yeah.
Couple of wins and everything changes. Couple of losses, everything changes.
I
Um,
still, I still think they're a team that they're better than the ones that are below them. They're better than Luton. They're better than Burnley, and they're better than Sheffield. So I think they will
yeah,
be
but I
safe, but they
think
probably will languish around 15th, that kind of area.
yeah, I agree. But we'll move on to the biggest talking point of the weekend: Manchester United.
Yeah, where do we start?
Well, I want to
Mainly
start.
the defence.
Well, I want to start off by saying, like I said to you, Jakey, before we came on the podcast, I do think it is a little bit of like West Ham United. I think, obviously, as we're recording it today, Tuesday, they've got a huge game against Bayern Munich tonight, and I think that would have been on their minds Saturday. Whether or not it would, like I said, with the West Ham game, it's no excuse whatsoever. United fans can be appalled by it completely, especially how much talk is about your club at the minute.
Yeah.
In all different areas, there looks like to be no conviction. There's talk about the change of captaincy. You've obviously got the Jadon Sancho stuff. You've got Ten Hag not being the right man for the job. People were saying, could it be the first ever time where a manager gets manager of the month and sacked in the same weekend? It was a possibility.
Yeah, it was a possibility.
But as I say, I do think they may have had, as football players, you shouldn't be thinking about the next game, but sometimes you can get ahead of yourselves. There's been times like, for example, I'm sure you've seen it, Jakey, with Liverpool, where you've got a Champions League final coming up and you've still got two Premier League games and you're not asked.
Yeah.
You don't want to dive in for that tackle in case you get injured before the big game. Do you know what I mean? And things like that change your mentality in a game. And then you've got a Bournemouth team that are right up for the battle, don't give a fuck, and will take no prisoners and will
Yeah.
punish any mistake you make.
And there was a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
Oh, there were a lot of mistakes.
But saying all that, it was still fucking appalling. And I'm going to let the Liverpool fan take that bit away.
Yeah. We'll talk about the first goal, because I think that's probably the biggest talking point for me. Is you can't really let a player, the ball comes out, and I can't mind which Bournemouth player it is, but he gets a touch, the ball travels about 15 yards and he's still chasing it, and Bruno stands still and Amrabat stands still, and he's allowed to just run through both of them and play a pass to a very on-form Dominic Solanke, who finishes it very well. For the first time as a Liverpool fan who slanders Onana, he didn't do anything wrong here. It was a very good finish. There's not really a lot you can do. He has to rely on that ball being cut out before it can get to Solanke. Even that ball being stopped before it even gets the chance to be put into Solanke, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it's just lazy. And I know a few United fans on Twitter who were saying, I think Mark Goldbridge pointed out that we need to stop with this Scott McTominay fantasy, because while yes, he has been kind of a bit part striker, I guess you could say, because there are other strikers not performing.
He's a fluky player, that's what I was saying, man.
Yeah. He's not good enough to be playing for United. United fans know that. It's funny for us because we get to laugh at them, but all in all, there's players that are playing in that United team that shouldn't be. Luke Shaw should not be playing left centre-back, for one. For the second goal, it's a complete mismatch, him against Philip Billing. A man who, I think Philip Billing is 6'5" and Luke Shaw is about 5'10".
Yeah.
He's never going to win that header, if we're being real. And it's unfair for the players that, are probably good enough to be there and are having to witness shit week in, week out. And for the United fans who remember the Fergie days where you were an absolute force to be reckoned with, that's just not happening anymore. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I was about to say, sorry to cut you off, but you saying about that, I've seen that so much recently on social media about, I watched Manchester United during the Fergie days. That's gone. Yeah, Manchester United fans have got to living in the past. This is what you've got now. This is your team. This is your manager. Fucking deal with it. Fergie is done.
This is what they slandered us for when we used to bring up the old days and say, "Oh, you're living in the past." This is the now. Use this shit. Use of this. Well, this is what you have to deal with now. This is almost karma for the years of abuse I had to suffer from being a Liverpool fan. But yeah, it's been a decade since Fergie. I guess I've got to just wake up, smell the roses, and realise it's going to be a long way back to them days. You don't have a manager that's feared anymore, and you don't have a world-class squad.
Oh
I
yeah.
wouldn't even say you have 5 world-class players in that squad. You'd be lucky to have 2. And I think one of them's Bruno, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean Rashford on his day, but his day's
His
very
day's long gone. He's a purple patch player at best.
yeah, he is. No,
But yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I mean, Manchester United fans, like, you can sit there and say that, oh, this is shit and that shit, etc., etc., and it's completely understandable from a football perspective. But your team just needs to start making changes, and they need to start from the top. Now, I'm not going to go into Gary Neville style crap where it needs to start from the owners and below and all that shit. For me, I think you got Ten Hag at the time when he was pretty much the best manager you could have got at the time. Yes, he's won you a trophy, got you back into the Champions League, but it just seems to be a lack of confidence in the manager right now, not only from the fans but the players as well.
he just looked to have lost the dressing room. But
He does,
you know,
big time.
after that Chelsea game, he came out and said that doesn't look like a group of players that have lost faith in the manager. And then they go and get their asses handed to them by Bournemouth. Now that does look like a group of players that have lost faith in the manager.
Yeah,
Because as much as Bournemouth have been playing well recently, and I know Connor, our editor, will be absolutely loving the his team being the talking point of a podcast episode, but it should be a simple game for United.
it should be.
For a team of their stature, it should just be a simple game for them. And the fact that it's not is worrying.
I genuinely think there is a possibility that tonight Ten Hag could lose his job. I honestly think if Bayern Munich batter Man United, and I believe it's Copenhagen.
Yeah, Copenhagen need to beat Galatasaray to go through.
Yeah, if Copenhagen beat Galatasaray, United are completely out of Europe.
Yeah,
completely.
They wouldn't even drop down.
Won't
they
even
would
drop
just be
down, and I think that will be the final straw for the owners. I generally do. Not be going completely out of Europe. I think could be the final straw if it happens. And let's be honest, it is a fucking tall task for Manchester United. The only exception for Manchester United tonight for me is Bayern Munich are already through and could play a weakened side.
I don't think they will after they got battered 5-1 against Freiburg at the weekend. I think they'll be out for blood.
Yeah, and that's my biggest worry because Freiburg have got us. They're coming off a 5-1 beating of Bayern.
Oh no, wait, it wasn't Freiburg. It was Frankfurt. Sorry to worry you.
Oh, thank God for that.
No, it was Frankfurt. It was one of the Fs.
I don't keep up with the German league. Fuck that. But anyway, remains to be seen what will happen with Manchester United. Personally, I think Ten Hag will be lucky to see into the new year with the job. I think
He'll be lucky to see the Liverpool game. Never mind, it's just the new year.
But the question is though, because Manchester United, maybe it's time they do just start holding on to a manager, because you can't just keep chopping and changing your manager over and over and over again. So this is our question to you, Manchester United fans. What do you want to see? Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out? Do you give him time to possibly win the dressing room round, get January out of the way, maybe get some players that don't want to be there out and some players in that will play for Ten Hag? Or do you get him out now and take 6 months with a new manager and hope for the best? Personally, I would actually keep Ten Hag. I don't think there's any other manager out there right now that would suit Manchester United anyway. I think it's another poison chalice job like Chelsea.
Yep.
But it remains to be seen. But
it does.
We will find out in the distant future.
We will.
But
keep an eye out on the Twitter, because there will be updates from the matches tonight.
Oh, absolutely. But that is going to do it, guys, for our rundown of our favourite Premier League games of the weekend. So that's going to do it, guys, for this week's episode of the Shot on Target podcast. My final one of the year. I just want to say thank you so much, guys, for the support this year. It's been absolutely unbelievable. I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Jakey for the next few weeks. And that is going to do it, guys. So I will see you in the new year, and we will see you next week.
See you later, guys.
Cheers, guys.